have a very dark moon, almost an invisible moon. We don't have a very strong tint color. The moon just goes very dark and becomes almost invisible. And then we move through the different shades until we get to the right-hand side, to the number 4. And this is when we have an orangey, yellowy moon. It's a lot closer to that normal bright moon because it's a much brighter moon, and it's much closer to the familiar moon color that we see. Now we are around about, I think, half a minute away from the maximum eclipse now. So this is the middle of totality. This is the moon is now at its deepest point into the dark part of the Earth's shadow, and if we could just actually get the Danjon scale back onto the screen there, this is a good moment to have a look at this and to have a judge at what color you think the moon is. So we have these we have this scale of 5 different shades from the very dark 0 on the left through to the very bright yellow orangey on the right. The question is, which of these tints best matches the moon that we're looking at here? Now, of course, this is very subjective, and here, of course, we are looking at images through a telescope in Perth. Of course, there's exposures and there's all kinds of settings on the camera there, and that's all changing the color slightly. So different people looking at the moon through different equipment and looking at the moon in different places on the world can all come to different views on what the number should be for this lunar eclipse. But here is a challenge for the timeanddate.com community. As well as sending us your pictures and images to the live page, it would also be great to know what color the moon is as you see it from your location. So again, we're going from a very dark moon from 0 right the way through to a very light yellowy orangey moon, number 4. We've got a kind of a very reddish moon at number 3, and then getting slightly duller moons at 2 and 1. What color do you think the moon is? What Danjon number would you assign to this total lunar eclipse? We would love to hear your thoughts on this on our live page as well. So we will leave you with these pictures of maximum eclipse, and we will be back with you very shortly. Thank you very much, and see you soon. TimeAndDate.com's live coverage of this total lunar eclipse, 13:40 TC, and so we're about half an hour away from the end of totality, this total phase of the eclipse, where the whole of the moon is in the darkest part of the Earth's shadow. In about half an hour, we will begin again with another partial phase. The moon will begin to move out of the darkest part of the Earth's shadow, back into the lighter part of the Earth's shadow, and we will see the same thing we saw before, but just happening in reverse. The darkness will move away from the moon, and the brightness will come back, and we will head towards the end of this eclipse. But we still have half an hour of totality, and we still have half an hour to enjoy this wonderful reddish color that the moon has turned. On the there we have put in a summary of the Danjon scale. Remember, we never know exactly what color the moon is going to turn until the eclipse. Interesting to think, to try to decide what shade of red the moon has turned. Now I'm looking at this on my monitor here, and actually I'm just looking at quite a small thumbnail of this image, so I might not be the best person to judge this. I've been talking to the folks in the control room at TimeAndDate.com, and well, the consensus there seems to be this is a number 3, a very kind of brick red eclipse. Also, one or two people thinking maybe a bit towards number 2. 2 is this slightly more rusty, slightly browner shade of red. But the consensus in the TimeAndDate.com control seems to be that the number 3. We'll continue to keep an eye on this over the next half an hour. Now again, it does depend also on how you're looking at the moon and what equipment you're looking at the moon through, because different equipment have different lenses and different exposures. We have just switched here back to the Griffith Observatory. This is our other main feed for today's eclipse. This is the Griffith Observatory, Los Angeles. And wait, a little bit more like on the Danjon. This is looking a little bit browner. Of course, the very best way to judge it is to get outside and to have a look at it with the eye. Something we can't do here in Japan at the moment because of the cloud cover. So here in Japan, we are relying on these great images from the Griffith Observatory as well. And what we got? Yes, we now have 20 minutes to go until the end of the total phase of this lunar eclipse. Now, of course, the color. Now, the color here, of course, this is why this eclipse has been popularly referred to as a blood moon, as the moon takes on this reddish color. Of course, for this eclipse, there has been another term that has been used a lot in the media during the build-up to this eclipse, and this is the term supermoon. This is a super blood moon eclipse. Now, a supermoon is a term. Like blood moon, supermoon is not an official astronomy term. It was actually coined by an astrologer back in 1979, but it has entered the popular culture as a way to talk about the moon. So what is a supermoon? Well, to answer this, we need to go all the way back to the beginning of the 17th century, and the great German mathematician and astronomer Johann Kepler. Because came along, everybody thought that bit of astronomical bodies, the paths that astronomical bodies follow, everybody thought they were circles. And this is, of course, a very reasonable assumption to make, because a circle is a very natural shape. It's a very kind of perfect shape, and everybody assumed that that these astronomical bodies moved and orbited in these orbit of planets and the orbit of the moon is not a perfect circle. Ellipse. It is this slightly circle, and this was a very dramatic and counterintuitive discovery that Kepler made back in 1609. Now, of course, if the orbit of a planet or orbit of the moon is a circle, that means that places in its orbit it's slightly closer to, and at other places in its orbit it's slightly further away from the Earth. So the moon is never at a fixed distance. Sometimes it's closer, sometimes it's further away. And this is what leads to the term supermoon. The original definition of a supermoon, when it was within 90% of its closest approach to the Earth. This was the original definition. It works out to about 300,000 kilometers. That is 90% of the closest that the moon gets. But as we say, it's an official astronomical term, and other definitions do exist. Some people call a supermoon, they call it the closest full moon to the Earth in any year. Full moons in 1 year. That happens when the moon is closest to the Earth, that's called a supermoon. And there are other definitions too. Here at timeanddate.com, we use the definition that supermoon is when the moon is less than 360,000 kilometers from the Earth. So there are defining. But the key thing with all of these is that a supermoon is when we have a full moon, when the Earth is to the moon. And this means that the moon appears a little bit bigger in the sky. Not 15% bigger, but it does look bigger in the sky. The thing that is actually more noticeable with a supermoon is not the size, but brightness. The moon is about 14% bigger, but in terms of brightness, it's about 30% brighter. So the thing that is really noticeable with a supermoon, a lot brighter. When we see a full supermoon, it really looks a lot brighter. The moon is further away. And today, for this full moon, the moon is relative. In fact, the distance today at full moon was 360,000 kilometers. That does mean that on the original definition of a supermoon, then today's full moon is a supermoon. But interestingly, it does mean that if we take the timeanddate.com definition of a supermoon, which is less than 360,000 kilometers, and in fact today the moon is just 198 kilometers too far away. So by our standards, it doesn't quite qualify as a supermoon. And well, that just shows you the kind of high standards that we have here at timeanddate.com. But of course, we're talking a couple of 100 kilometers out of 360,000 kilometers. So to all intents and purposes, it really is a super blood today. More to, we also need to the definitions that have been these lips. We will be in a few minutes to talk about the blue moon and why that is so interesting. So stay with us. Please keep having a look at all of the great images that are being uploaded onto our live blog page at timeanddate.com/live. And we will see you again in a few.